Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. I want to talk about buying rental property in the current high interest rate environment. A lot of people have been holding back because of high interest rates, and I thought I would address that in this video. Interest rates are high. Now, to be honest, when we started investing in real estate and rental properties, they were right where they are now. So what seems like high to everybody was a really decent rate when we were starting. So I think it's basically come down to people not being used to, well, everyone got used to very low interest rates for a very long time. So interest rates are high. It's a perception, though, in a way. It's a perception. The rental market in most of the country is solid. One of the reasons for that is people are not selling their homes and vacating. So there's not a lot of affordable home inventory. There's home inventory available, but it tends to be on the expensive side. So more people are renting and not buying, hoping that home prices will come down. And there are other reasons, but the rental market is pretty darn solid in most of the country. Not everywhere, but in most of the country. So there's really two different kinds of loans where you're running into high interest rates, and maybe it's making you not want to buy and grow your portfolio. You should anyways, and I'll explain why. As I go through this, I'll give you some motivation to continue building your portfolio of rental properties. It'll become clear why it's still a good time to keep buying. But first, let me talk about the two different loan types. There's a loan type for a home, condo, 2, 3, or 4 units. That's one type of loan. The current rates for those, 8 to 9% for non-owner occupied. In other words, if you're buying a rental property, 2, 3, or 4 units, or a condo or a house, and you're not going to occupy it, it's a rental, the current rates are 8 to 9%. The loans for this type of property, 4 units and less, the loans are 30-year loans fixed. So those are fixed rates that you can get right now for non-owner occupied 4 units or fewer. The second type of loan is the one that I think most people should be aiming for, is for 5 or more units. This type of property is called commercial residential property, rental property. It's a commercial residential loan type. The rates right now, 9.25% and higher. That being said, rates are going to come down over the next 1 to 2 years. Rates will be coming down. They spiked up quite a bit starting in 2022. The Fed wanted to slow the economy down because of inflation. Interest rates are going to come down. So if you get started now, you should anticipate lower rates in the in the fairly near term, 1 to 2 years. So this type of loan, commercial residential, generally the loan maturity is 5 to 10 years. These amortize. In other words, the interest rate that they charge is based on a 30-year loan term. But in other words, your payments for this type of loan, it's still as if you had a 30-year loan. But the thing is, the loan becomes due in 5 to 10 years. So it's sort of like a balloon payment. You have to pay off the loan in the 5 to 10 year period that you get your initial loan for. So it's a little bit different from 4 or fewer units, but the advantage will become obvious as I go through this, okay? This is the kind of loan you want to get, 9.25%. That's what, we were paying those kind of interest rates when we started growing our portfolio. So it's doable, but there's a strategy to it. So let me explain the strategy behind how to make this work in the current environment. And there's one other type of loan I thought I'd mention. If you have trouble qualifying for this type of loan, there are bridge loans out there. I don't recommend it, but they're available for 14. I saw them online for 14.5%. So if you know for a fact you can get into a property and get out before the loan is due, you can maybe make this work. I've never done that type of loan, a hard money loan, a bridge loan. I've never had to. Really would not want to, but I wanted to mention it for completeness. I mean, basically 1 to 4 units, 8 to 9%, 5 or more units, 9.25%. Bridge loans, a little bit way up there. The interest rates are pretty high. So how do you make this work? We're going to target 5 or more units. Here's the strategy. Wherever you are in the country, you want to buy a fixer-upper. You want to find a multi-unit building. The more units, the better. That is a fixer-upper, a value-add property, and have working capital in addition to your loan down payment. Have working capital set aside so that you can do remodels without being stressed about being able to make pay all your bills. So let's assume that we find a property, and the example I'm going to use is a 20-unit property. Let's assume that we find a fixer-upper 20-unit property. We're going to start the remodels now from the very beginning. We're not going to wait. We're going to, sometimes you buy properties and there are a couple of vacant units, but generally you'll end up having to give some of the tenants move-out notices. If you're buying a fixer-upper, your tenants would probably want to live in a better, in a better unit anyways. So although it might, cause some consternation about having to move people out so you can do the remodel, you can tell them we're going to remodel these and we'll reach out to you when they're finished. And if you're interested, you can come take a look at them. And that way they know it's nothing personal. It's basically we want to improve this property. It needs to be remodeled. It's a fixer-upper. So you want to start the remodels immediately after buying the property. You've got some working capital, but it's not unlimited. Start the remodels. You want to do the first 1/3 of the units and get those finished. Then do the next third. In other words, we're going to do the remodel in phases. We're going to do the first third, finish those, and get those rented out. Then we're going to do the next third of the units, remodel those, get those rented, and then finish the final third of the units, remodel those, and get those rented out. We're going to aim for getting this done in less than 1 year. It's totally doable. I've done it. I mean, I've had properties where just pretty extreme remodeling, and we still were able to get things done in under a year. Now, that being said, you're able to do that in a short time period by hiring people to help you to shorten the time to do the remodeling. If you are going to try to remodel 20 units by yourself, that's not a good strategy. You don't want to do that. You want to actually hire people. Your working capital should provide means to be able to hire some folks to help you shorten the time to get the units remodeled. So the cool thing about that is the following. After you do the first third remodels, you raise the rents, you now have more income from the property that will help you pay for the people you hire. So it takes some of the stress off your working capital reserve. And then as you do the next third of the units, you now have even more. So it becomes easier and easier to have hired people shorten the amount of time to finish the remodeling. So we bought this 20 units, we've commenced the remodel, we're going to have the remodeling done in a year or less. This is only 20 units, it's perfectly doable, I've done this, okay? You obviously are going to raise rents on the units after you remodel them. I mean, you're providing a better quality product, a better quality living experience for your customers, for your tenants, and they will be willing to pay more. So here's an example. We find a 20-unit fixer-upper selling for $2 million. That's about $100,000 per door. Pretty reasonable. You can't find that everywhere in the country. For example, in California, that may not be feasible in some parts of California anyways, but in a lot of the country, $100,000 per door is doable. You can find 20-unit fixer-uppers in other states that are below $100,000 a door. So I just use this as an example. This should cover most of the country. We're going to put $400,000 down. Now that's flexible. If you look at the very first video on my channel, I bought a 9-unit fixer-upper apartment building. It was the very first property I had ever bought in my life. My wife and I were still renting. We bought this 9-unit apartment building. It was a fixer-upper. We only put down 15%. 15%. So this is a 20% down payment on $2 million. So if you can negotiate with the seller, if it's a fixer-upper, that's what we did. It was a fixer-upper property. It was bank-owned. We negotiated a low down payment. You can sometimes do that, but just assume $400,000 down and that the rents are $750 per door. Okay, so if you've got 20 units and the rents are, and by the way, these rents are after all expenses are paid. These are the net rents you are collecting after paying for your mortgage, your insurance, and your property taxes. These are net rents for this example, okay? So the rents are, you're clearing $750 a month after all expenses for each of the 20 units. And if you do the math, that's $180,000 a year net operating income. You multiply 750 times 20 units times 12 months, you end up with $180,000 in net operating income when you buy the property. Now that's plenty to pay the expenses that are usually 30%, 35% thereabouts. 180K is what you walk into it with. Now you sacrifice some of that when you start the remodel. You have working capital. You're going to start remodeling a third of the units. But in general, to start with, we've got a 9% cap rate in this example. The original net operating income annual was $180,000. We are going to raise the rent only $250. I was very conservative with this. I have had remodel units that I've increased the rent by $1,000 per unit after the remodel. So this is a very conservative example. $750 were the old rents per unit $1,000 net after the remodel. So the new net operating income is $240,000 a year. Now just compare those. We went from 180 net to 240 net. Not bad, right? So after the remodel, and this was a very conservative example. So what is the building worth now? Because the key part of the strategy is what happens next. So follow along here. So we finished all the remodels in under a year. We now have a much more valuable building because with rental property, especially with commercial residential, 5 or more units, the value of that property is based on the rents. And so we raised the rents quite a bit to we're now netting $240,000 a year. So using the cap rate formula, I'm going to calculate what the property is worth now. 9% cap rate equals the net operating income. The formula for cap rate is net operating income divided by the property value. We know we have 9%. We've got a new NOI of $240,000 divided by the new value. So we just use some algebra here. New value comes here. 9% comes in the denominator. The property is now $240,000 divided by 9%, $2,667,000. A $667,000 gain in 1 year. And these were conservative numbers. Doing a remodel and only raising rent $250, it's very conservative. So we've got a $667,000 gain. So this is the key part of this strategy. We are going to go back to the bank or maybe a different bank. We're going to refinance this property at the higher value. We now have a much more valuable property. We paid $2 million. It's now worth $2,667,000. So what was our down payment? $400,000. We're going to do either a cash out refi. We are going to do a cash out refi. We're going to pay off the old loan, the $2 million, what's left on the $2 million, and we're going to pull out the remainder. We're going to pull out at least our original deposit back. So that's the key part of the strategy. You can make the higher interest rates work if you're buying a fixer-upper and if you do the remodel correctly, which means fast, if you hire people to help you. If you think about it, you can imagine increasing the rents more than $250 per unit after the remodel. Like I said, that's a conservative number. I've done much higher than that in the properties that I bought, the fixer-uppers I bought. But pulling out your original down payment allows you to do what? Buy the next property. So if you are sort of putting off growing your portfolio because of high interest rates, you can still make this work. You just want to find they call them distressed properties. They don't really have to be distressed. They might just be dated. You might find someone selling a property or who's willing to sell a property, who's an older person who doesn't want to have to do the remodels and is tired of managing the property. Some reason they want to sell. You buy it. It's a dated property, and then you remodel it. You do the remodel, and then after a year, you pull the money out. Rinse and repeat, as they say. So people have been putting off buying properties because of the high interest rates. Like I said, these interest rates, pretty much the same as when we started, and we have done quite well over the years with these higher interest rates. It's true that after 2009, interest rates just hit rock bottom, but that was an anomaly. That's not normal. If you look back several decades, you're not going to find interest rates that low for that long a period of time. So to break yourself out of this, if you can find a value-add property, and the more units, the better. 20 units, if you can find 30 units, 40 units, even better. Because you can, when you do your cash out refi, you end up pulling out more money, and then you can buy an even bigger next property, and you can just roll along with fixer-uppers. Now, I purposely did not do turnkey property, Class A property. I wanted to illustrate this point that if you're concerned about the high interest rates, you can still make it work with fixer-uppers. That was the point of this particular video, to sort of get people thinking about how can I move forward growing my portfolio in this so-called high interest rate environment. There's a way to do it. The most important aspect is to hire people to shorten the time to finish the remodeling. If you try to do it all yourself, it's probably not workable. It takes too long if there's just one or two people doing it. So I want to wish everyone the best of luck. If you have any questions about this, I've got relevant experience. I've done this. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll try to help. And I want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.